Hi, I'm Ken Ellison from Ellison Machine Shop. You all know me, I'm your engine guy. I have something I want to show you here today, something you probably don't know. If you have a brand new vehicle, even if it's only a couple months old, and you have to take it back to the dealer because it's having overheating issues, or maybe it's leaking fluid of some sort, oil, coolant, and your dealer takes a look at it and determines that there's a head gasket issue and the head gasket has to be replaced, they will take the cylinder head off and they will send it to me or a guy like me in your area. It's going to be handled by a local machine shop. A lot of people don't understand that. They don't know that you've actually have two specialists working on your vehicle. You have the mechanic, plus you have a good machine shop, and both are imperative to getting the vehicle back together. And I say many times, I'm not a garage, and the garage is not a machine shop. We both have very specialized businesses, and we both do a different part of the operation, and you need both. So your cylinder head will be sent out, and it'll be sent to us or a guy like us, and it's going to have the diagnostic work done to it, and it's going to have the recommended repairs. We also have to deal with, and I have to do this on a regular basis, I have to deal with the warranty companies. When your vehicle is just a few months old, usually not an issue of any kind. Let it get to be 30, 40, 50,000 miles on it, maybe 2 or 3 years old. Then I have a battle with the insurance companies, and I have to be really careful with how I speak, what I say, the way I write it up. You got to have somebody who has some experience with dealing with them, or your vehicle's not going to be under warranty. They try very hard to twist my words sometimes and try to avoid warranties. Now, bear in mind, not every single one's like that, but a great majority of them are, and it's difficult. So you got to make sure you have a good machine shop. I have a very specialized piece of equipment right here behind me. This piece of equipment, we have a Honda cylinder head mounted on. This is a cylinder head pressure tester. This is one of the most important pieces of equipment we have in the shop, because it doesn't matter how good of a job you do rebuilding something if the thing is cracked and leaking, and that's what we use this for. This particular head is aluminum. There's two different processes that you use for finding, basically two that we use for finding cracks and leaks and different type of flaws inside of a cylinder head. We pressure test just about everything, because you can have pinholes in something that aren't cracks, and they're very difficult to see. So pressurizing it picks up the pinholes. But cast iron, you can magnetize it and magnaflux it. We'll talk about that at a later date. But this is aluminum. Aluminum does not magnetize, so therefore it can only pressure. We pressure test this. Now this particular head is this was not part of my scheduled plans here for a scheduled video, but it does fit very well into our upcoming videos that I'll have out in the next couple of weeks. Typical customer walks in the door, hands me a cylinder head, and says, I want to get my cylinder head resurfaced. Now, I know to a lot of you that doesn't seem like that's an unusual request, but when I hear stuff like that, a lot of times, I don't do it because I'm too professional, but my eyes roll in my head, in my mind. It's just like, okay, now what? You guys come in all the time and they tell me what to do instead of telling me what's wrong. And that's okay in some instances, but you have to understand, I got a lot of experience in this business, and you should try to tap into what I know. So this guy comes in and tells me, I just want it resurfaced. I said, well, do you want it pressure tested? Well, he says, well, I found a blown head gasket. Okay, that means nothing. But to him, he thinks, well, I found a problem. It's in the head gasket, therefore I resurfaced the head. A couple different scenarios. You could have a cracked head, and because the head is at the top portion of the motor, as the antifreeze disappears and leaks and blows off the motor, the cylinder head starts getting hot because the antifreeze is no longer traveling through the head to cool the head. So you could have a cracked head that leaks off the antifreeze until it gets hot enough you blow a head gasket. You could have a leaky head gasket that blows off the antifreeze until it gets down to a level that you crack a cylinder head. My point is that you could have one problem, you could have two problems, you could have a multitude of problems in these things. But for us, we start off with pressure testing it. I try to tell everybody, you don't go into a doctor's office and order your own tests. If I'm not feeling right, I don't go into my doctor's and say, look, I need an EKG. I go in, I point and show where it hurts. I tell him what's wrong with me. He tells me what I ought to do. I listen to what he has to say, and then it's up to me to agree or disagree with him. Same scenario here. This fella comes in here, he just tells me what he wants me to do, and if I'd have done it, it'd have shot him right in the foot and the wallet. But when this here, I talked him into pressure testing it. So we go ahead and we mount it on here, and as you can see, this is mounted on this apparatus, and this is a rollover stand. And I can spin this head around so I can inspect this 360 degrees. Now, what we do is that every place that the antifreeze travels through the engine, we have all the water passages. We pick out a block-off plate that mounts on the deck, and it blocks off all the water passages. We have various plugs and hoses, and every water passage is blocked off but one. And when that one single water passage, something like this is used, it's got an air hose fitting, and we go into that one fitting, that one hole, and we pressurize it. We got an air hose here, it comes down, and up top here we got a air regulator. The cylinder head is going to have approximately 15 pounds of running pressure, radiator pressure while it's on your car. We can get it up between double to triple that, somewhere between 30 to 45 pounds we can get on a cylinder head. So by putting double or triple the pressure on it, really, it's a very thorough test. So his head gets set up, and bear in mind, he wasn't going to pressure test this, he was going to resurface this, and this is the whole point of my video here today. My son Michael actually put this on a machine. He gets this thing set up, and he gets it running. And what by blocking off all the passages, pressurizing the water jacket, and then filling up the ports. So he's got it on a machine, and if it sits like this, we can take it and we can turn it up like this. We can lock it in place. I got intake ports, exhaust ports. You come in here with a water hose, and we can fill all of them up to the very top, and just look to see if it's bubbling. Just like taking an inner tube and blowing it up full of air and submerging it in a tub of water and looking for the bubbles. Same exact thing. Then we can take this like this. We can roll this over. We get the intake, the valve cover area up. We can flood the valve covers. They crack often inside the valve cover area, right underneath the valve springs. Sometimes the head, when it gets hot and it bows like this, it actually stretches the head, it stretches the aluminum on one side. Sometimes there are already thin castings there to start with, but we can flood this with water and check it. Spray bottle with soapy water. We can go all around the outside of it, checking it for cracks. So Mike gets this thing running, and he comes and gets me and says, "Dad, take a look at this one." So come on in here a little bit. Here's the crack that we found. Now, some cracks are super minute, and he's probably better at finding it. That one's huge. See that in there real good? Might have got a little mist here on the screen. Okay, back up now. We're getting good mist on our screen. This thing is cracked big time. It has a major crack right here inside the exhaust port, and if our customer would have put this back together, he would have put this all back together with his brand new timing component set. He would have used his brand new gasket set, and some of these head sets are really expensive. And on top of that, torque to yield head bolts. He's had a torque to yield head bolt set he had to put in this that you're really not supposed to use a second time over. And not to mention all his time. He had to put this all back together because he didn't want to spend the money on a pressure test, because he found a head gasket, which means absolutely nothing. Engines often have multiple problems. This particular one right here, he's going to be very upset when I call him up and tell him that the money he paid us as a deposit, because we always get a deposit in advance, and if you're dropping a head off at your machine shop to have it checked for cracks or a block to be checked for cracks, most guys, at least my area, myself, we always charge for that in advance, because sometimes when we call you up and say it's not cracked, we get guys, unfortunately, don't always come back and pick up their cylinder head and pay the bill. So, but he's going to be upset that it's paid. But the bigger side of the picture is that we saved him from putting this completely back together. If he's doing this in his part-time, it's going to take him a while. It's a lot of wasted time and money. But anyhow, when you take a job into the shop, the moral of the story is when you go see the doctor, tell him where it hurts. Don't tell him what you want it to do, what you want him to do. Explain what the problem is. If you think it needs to be resurfaced only, tell him why you think it needs to be resurfaced only. Then listen to him. If you got a machinist that when you drop it off and he says, you tell him to resurface it and he says okie dokie, and he just doesn't, he doesn't talk about your options to you. To me, that's not real impressive, fellow. You should have someone who can sit here and explain to you the ins and outs of what you're doing. Do you need to do more work? Do you need, are you asking to do something you don't need whatsoever? Sometimes I get customers that once they tell me what they actually want, what they want won't even solve their problem. I get guys that will come in and tell me to pressure test the head, and come to find out they got bad valves. And checking valves and a pressure test is checking for cracks, asking for the wrong thing. So hopefully you got a good machinist that'll talk to you. Once again, appreciate you following my videos. See you soon.